Hello, everyone. My name is Dubarenka, and today I'm going to be a host for the very first episode of Midpen Connects, a brand new series of casual conversations between people who had met at Midpen Media Center and what those connections grew into. Today, we're going to start with introducing my friend, Kevin Burnett, who had been a volunteer with Midpen Media Center and volunteer at the public access television studio since the year 2011. So it's about 10 years now. And right now he's also a City Hall video operator, my colleague. I used to be a volunteer at Midpen Media Center as well. And right now I'm working alongside of Kevin as a City Hall video operator as well. My term of volunteering is much shorter than Kevin's. I had been with the Midpen since the year 2016, and it's been really enjoyable experience. I've met a lot of interesting people, but Kevin had became my friend, and recently also expressed a lot of support to the civil movement in my country of birth, Belarus. And this is another aspect that we would like to emphasize today, the way Midpen Media Center connects people from different cultural backgrounds and different walks of life. I hope you will enjoy this conversation. All right. Hi, Kevin.
Hi, Asia. How are you?
Pretty good, thank you. So today we're going to talk a little bit about the ways that Midpen Media Center connects different people, different cultures. And you had been volunteering and been part of the staff of the Midpen Media Center for a very long time already, right? Can you
Well,
tell a little bit about that? What have
sure.
you been doing for the Media Center, and what are you doing now?
Yeah, sure. I took the studio class back in the old studio in 2011 and then started out just volunteering being a camera operator, and I gradually worked my way towards control room. And then eventually I heard that there was an opening on staff to be doing the City Hall video operator. So I applied and Dave hired me. That happened in 2016, so I've been doing that ever since. I really enjoy it. So
Great. So how did you hear about Midpen Media Center to begin with?
I get the channels at home on my cable system, and I happened just to be randomly looking through the channels, and I stopped on one of the media center channels, and they were showing actually a documentary that was made by Karen Adams when she worked there. And then after that, there was a thing on it saying people can go look at the media center's website and that they had classes. So I figured, well, I'm not doing anything right now. So I went and I took the class, signed up and took the class.
That sounds fantastic. So you took the class at the Midpen Media Center that allows you to work as a studio operator, right? Yeah. So this is the part that Media Center does really well. They have the community access studio that everybody can come and learn how to use to. Like there is a lot of interesting equipment there. The studio was already all digital, or they were still analog?
It was not high definition at that time, but it was basically digital. Actually, the shows got recorded onto these DV cam tapes.
You are saying that you saw Media Center's programs on the channels, on the local cable channels, right?
Yes.
And did you have a chance to volunteer later on for any of those programs that you saw before?
It was only as a camera operator. I did one of the Toastmasters shows, and I did Law Talk a few times back when I was first volunteering. Yeah.
Law Talk is exactly a good example of the show that shows how democratic Midpen Media Center is, because I think it's safe to say that most people in media center are very liberal in their views, and
I think so, yes.
law talk is exactly opposite. Those are two
Yes,
conservative lawyer guys who like to talk about politics and
yeah,
important events in the life of the country. So
yes.
it is great that this show can coexist peacefully with the rest of the way more liberal programs that we have.
Oh yeah, yes,
Yes.
definitely.
Yes. What attracted you to the media center? So you took a class, right? You started volunteering there, and then I remember
Yeah.
somebody mentioning that you were one of the top volunteers, right? Like for some years.
Yeah, there were a couple of years, there was at least one year when I was the number one volunteer. I actually amazingly did over 150 shows in one year.
That's
I
amazing.
don't know how I did it. I think I ended up burning myself out a bit with that. I kind of scaled back after that.
What was the main motivation for you to be coming back there?
Not all that long earlier than that, I had worked for IBM for 14 years and they laid me off and I really had nothing to do.
Oh, okay.
So part of it was just to get me something to do. But then once I started doing it, I really started enjoying it. So it made me keep coming back.
So what exactly were you enjoying? Just the technical side, or was that something about the
Well,
community, about the people
the,
who
yeah, the technical side somewhat, but also it meant that I got to meet a whole bunch of really great people and at the end up becoming friends with some of them. And yeah, the community aspect was really probably really ultimately kept me coming back. I mean, there was like Sarah Bennett, who I became friends with. There was Karen Adams. There was also like the program. There were some programs that were interesting to do. There was like West Coast Songwriters was a show I enjoyed doing. I learned a lot about audio from that show. And there was Doug and Darlene Carmen used to do a show at the Media Center that I worked on pretty much every month that I really enjoyed. I liked both of them a lot.
uh-huh,
And I don't know. I like to work on Talk Art with Sally and Nance. It was another good one.
uh-huh.
And there's a number of others. I have off the top of my head, I don't know like what they are at the moment, but yeah.
This is interesting. You brought up the shows that are so good at actually showing the local talent.
Yes. Oh yeah.
They do bring in like all those three that you mentioned, Talk Art, and I forgot what's the name of the Darling Carmen's show. And
It was just called Darlene Carmen Presents.
yeah, that's correct. That's right. But she was talking a lot about art on her shows as well.
Mm-hmm.
And she was bringing some remarkable people too. And the
Yes.
other one you mentioned was West Coast Songwriters. So
Yes.
those shows kind of bring in the talent from the entire big and diverse community of Bay Area, right? And I find it fascinating. I like those shows as well, and it's a pleasure to be volunteering for them. Uh,
Yeah.
but what can you tell, if you can tell a little bit about like this community aspect, this uniting people aspect? Have you seen many good connections that grew into some other developments later on happening in the media center?
When I worked doing the youth sports stuff with Sarah,
Oh,
it was
wonderful.
really nice to see. We would go out and record high school sporting events,
Mhm,
and the crew was mostly like junior high and high school students actually doing the real work.
mhm,
And it was really great to see some of them
mhm.
um, turn into people who actually seemed like they wanted to pursue broadcasting as a career.
Great.
And some of them went on to do their own shows at the media center. And I think
Sports
one
sit
or two of
down.
them are probably the sports sit down. Yes, and a good example of it. Yeah. The guy, the original host at SUNY, I don't remember if he's still in high school, if or he's graduated already. But yeah,
Yeah, that is very interesting. Good. Have you met, so Midpen Media Center is a public access TV studio, right?
hmm
And it does connect people again from the whole Bay Area. And Bay Area is
yeah,
kind of like a big pot of different cultures, and how many people who represent different countries of the world you met there at the Midpen Media Center?
Well, other than you, there's Lubov from Ukraine. There was a number of people I worked on, a couple of Indian music shows. I got to meet some really nice people who were originally from India, for instance. And I'm trying to think of other places, but I can't think of anything at the moment. Those are the ones that really would stick out for me the most. And obviously you from Belarus and Lubov, and
Yeah, I also want to mention, like, I'm pretty sure we both worked with those people. I noticed that there was a number of people from Latin American countries. I don't remember exactly where from, but there was one great woman who was pursuing a career also in broadcast and filming, if I remember right, and that's why she got attracted to the Midpen Media Center. I forgot what country she was from, but they were going through some, like, their country was going through some revolutionary process as well, just like what happens with Belarus right now. So we met at the Midpen Media Center, right? Do you remember what show we volunteered on or how we met?
There was some show, I think it was like some sort of kids show where you came and I don't think that you actually, I don't know if you actually worked on it, but you came with somebody else, and I think you mostly just watched what was going on.
Yes, that is correct, actually. This is funny because this was the very first time I was at the Midpen Media Center, and the person who introduced me to that place was Alex Karolko, from Ukraine, and he is a professional filmmaker right now. Because part of it, because of the Midpen Media Center and his work there, he was working with the Midpen Media Center, but he also
that's really cool.
Yeah, and he was the one who introduced me to United Nations Association Film Festival. And started volunteering there as well, because he needed his shift to be covered by somebody, and he thought that I can be a good candidate for that. This is how the whole story started. And then later on, after I did some coverage for the UNF, he said, well, you know what, since you like it, maybe you will like to learn a little bit more about the TV studio that is here.
Yeah, that's great.
Yes, and the first show was, I think, Reggie
and Critter or something like that. I can't remember what it was.
That's correct. That was a kids show that one of the producers made, and I think it was the first episode or something, because Karen Adams was creating that one.
Yes. Yeah, Karen and I were in the control room, and there were a number of other people doing camera work on it.
That's correct.
And she created the set and all that stuff. Yeah.
Yes, that was fun to be there and to see how it's happening.
And I guess after doing that, that made you think you might want to take the class and come back?
Oh, definitely.
Right.
Absolutely, because I was attracted to this idea of producing my own video content as well. And I did enjoy watching Karen setting the whole thing up, and being able to see somebody to actually bring their vision into reality so nicely was very inspiring to me.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yep. It's too bad she's not with the media center anymore, but that's another story.
Yeah, that is upsetting. This is upsetting too, that I never saw the documentary that she made, and I've heard about it quite a lot.
It is on YouTube. I'll see if I can find it for you. Wonderful. It's about landslides up in the mountains up above here in the Santa Cruz Mountains where we live.
Yes, I know the topic of it, because I talked with her about it before, and that was interesting to me. Her experience producing that and making it a little bigger, so others would hear about it as well. So yeah, she's one talented person and a very determined person.
Oh yes.
Yes.
she's a real perfectionist of a lot of this
Oh,
stuff.
definitely, yes. Sometimes it's
And
too
then,
much sometimes, but it does
well,
make things go smoothly in the long run.
I know. Well,
So the other aspect of your connection with the Midpen Media Center is you right now are working as a city hall video operator, and like at this specific moment you're doing even more for the Midpen Media Center. But I want to touch a little more on the part of the city hall video operations,
sure.
and
Yeah.
why did you decide to pursue that? Why was that important to you to start doing that and to keep going through so many years?
Uh-huh. Well, I thought it was for the first thing I thought about it, it'd be a way I wanted to be able to get more involved with the media center, and I would get partially I get paid to do it, and also that I would get to see a lot more about how our local governments here and our media center service area work. I've seen an awful lot of city council meetings and the various boards and commissions in Palo Alto and in East Palo Alto. It's been
Yeah.
really,
And you live
really
in
interesting to see how things go.
Palo
Sorry?
Alto, right?
Yes, I live in Palo Alto. Yeah.
So that's the part that do you feel that you got more involved with what's going on locally, with how decisions are being made with local politics while you were doing this job?
Yes, I do. I found in the past, I really didn't know a whole lot about the individual like members of the city council, and we come up on an election. I didn't really know who I would want to vote for because I didn't know a whole lot about them. But since I've been doing this, I've found an awful lot more about the various council members and what they think about things, and it's also made it easier for me to be more informed about what's going on and how I want to vote.
And
Yeah,
contribute to that, yeah.
yeah.
That's great. This is one fantastic aspect, to be honest with you, like that we don't have in Belarus, unfortunately. Well, there was some local councils were trying to bring that
Hmm.
or give access to the public a little bit more. But to be honest with you, that is the problem that we um, have to deal with in Belarus. Like people were not very involved with politics and
Hmm.
local politics specifically because they didn't know they can even access that. There is
Right.
no possibility for people to know what's going on. So like for me, for example, the way I work as a city hall video operator too, right? We're colleagues there.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
that was exactly what attracted me to that profession.
Hmm.
The possibility to give other people this knowledge about what is really going on. And this is amazing.
Yes.
Palo Alto is certainly uh, a poster child, right? Like a poster city for community involvement into what's
Oh,
going
yes.
on locally. Every
Yes.
meeting that we record, there is like a huge number of speakers during oral communications or like on each item
Hmm.
because
Yeah.
people don't stay away. They want to make sure that their voice is heard. They want to know what is going on. And this is very important aspect of democracy as well. Like this is how you stay
Yes.
active and involved in what is
And I
happening,
mean,
starting locally and then going on further.
yeah, I mean, and like you were saying, I mean, all of the national level politicians in this country likely started out
Yes,
at the local level.
that is correct. Yes, and this is how you learn more about them and in,
Yes. Yeah.
their impact and input and their positions. All right, this is wonderful. I want to thank you also for being so vocal on social media about
Uh-huh.
what is going on in Belarus, about trying to help.
Yes.
And I am wondering why actually you're doing that. Because you even
Well,
went to some events that the
hmm.
local Belarusian community produced in order to raise awareness. Why do you think
Yes.
it is important and why are you attracted to that?
Well, I think part of it is that when I see the way things were happening in Belarus, and I thought that Donald Trump
Mhm.
is the sort of person who, if he thought he could actually manage it, would turn himself into somebody like Lukashenko and turn this place into some sort of a dictatorship if he could get away with it.
Mhm.
And part of it was, well, as you and I became better friends, I wanted to know more about where you were from and what your background is. And it was really helpful to me to get to know you better. The first one I went with you, actually. We went up to the Solidarity line that was at the Marina Green back last July. I really enjoyed that. It was great to meet a bunch of new people,
Mhm.
from places I never been, and who knows if I'll ever visit there. But it was really educational for me, and everybody was very nice to me.
Mhm. I'm glad to.
And actually, Vera Savchenko, is that her? I'm saying it right. I hope I am. Savchenko. I don't know. I'm
Yeah, I think
interviewed
you're
me
right.
for her English language internet site,
Mhm.
which was interesting. And
Yeah.
then I went to another one it was in January, yeah, up by the Golden Gate Bridge. That was also interesting. I guess you couldn't go to that one, so I went by myself. And it was really nice. Everybody knew who I was. They were
That's
very nice and made sure that I understood what was going on. So someone, it wasn't always the same person, would always translate for me to let me know in English what they were talking about, which was great. I really appreciated it. It made me feel really welcome.
that is fantastic. I'm so glad to hear that. And
Yeah.
Vera, who is actually a journalist, she interviewed you twice, right?
Yes.
Like for those.
Yes. She interviewed me for this one in January as well. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That is great. Like I am deeply grateful that you could join the events that raise awareness about what's happening in Belarus. And this is upsetting to me sometimes that to learn that you are the only American there, basically,
Uh-huh.
in that community. Even though we do make a big effort to share the information with the world, and well, I see
Yeah.
some of my friends on social media are certainly interested in what's going on in Belarus, and
Uh-huh.
I think they know a little more right now. But
Yeah.
you became very active, actually.
Yes. Yeah.
Uh,
Well, I try to share like a lot of the stuff that I see from you and Vera and Nadia
mhm,
um, with my American friends, just to try and get them to know something about what's going on there.
mhm.
And I don't know how successful I've been, but I do it anyway because I believe in it.
Yeah. What do you believe in? What do you think will happen?
About everybody looking for freedom and democracy in Belarus. It's something that everybody everywhere should be concerned about.
Thank you so much about that. And I know that you are Irish. Like
Yeah,
that,
well,
that
sort of. Yeah, my parents are from Ireland. Yeah,
yes, like you're second generation, right?
yeah. And
Yes.
my parents moved here from Ireland when they're back in the late 1950s. And
Yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah. There you go. So I've heard a little bit from you about the history of that part of Ireland, just a little bit, but it seems a little bit familiar to me as well. Can you tell me a little bit more about that, and maybe wasn't like what
yeah,
do you think those events are in some ways similar um, to each other, like
um,
in Belarus, what was going on in Ireland?
maybe a little bit. I mean, for a long time, the Catholic population of Northern Ireland felt well, they still do in some ways, feel like the government of Northern Ireland was illegitimate
Hmm.
because they wanted to be part of the Republic of Ireland, the rest of Ireland. When Ireland got its independence from the UK back in 1921, the British carved out a piece of the northeast part of the island to remain part of the UK, and the Catholic population of that place really did not want it.
Hmm.
And I would say things there went a lot in terms of opposition and resistance. Things there went a lot further than they ever have Belarus, at least recent Belarus history, because I mean, there was there was a terrorist campaign to try and get rid of the British presence there.
Mhm.
It ultimately failed, and they ended up having a more peaceful settlement to it. So now everything seems to be much better there.
Mhm.
The people seem to get along a lot better, and it's really, really nice to see. The first times I visited there, back when I was a kid, you would look around and the army was absolutely everywhere, barbed wire and, gun towers everywhere. But a lot of that stuff is gone now, and that's really nice to see.
Interesting. What do you think is the main difference between protests in Belarus and protests in Ireland?
One of the main differences that in Ireland, the whole thing was Catholics versus Protestants, whereas I guess in Belarus it's more just opposition to dictatorship.
Mhm. What about the nature of the protests? Because, well, you mentioned that there were like terrorist attacks and everything. And in Belarus right now, of course, like we are young nation in terms, like we are actually young nation officially. And in terms of protesting or like being active politically, we're certainly just awakening. But there
I
was
suppose having been part of the Soviet Union for those many years probably had an effect on how people thought of things.
yeah, it's not just that, like it's a rich history of like just being enslaved, like our uh,
Hmm.
our region was mainly people who were
Yeah, kind of,
mostly enslaved for a while by Russian Empire. And yeah,
yeah.
so that's another part to that. But the other thing too, what I was trying to emphasize is the peaceful nature of the protests, and this is what actually brought the attention of international community to the protests.
Hmm.
Because
Yes.
protesters in Belarus do not commit any violent acts at all.
Right. Yes, that's great. That is really.
This is very interesting moment because normally this is not how protests going on anywhere else. The
Uh-huh.
only violence that is committed in Belarus is committed
By the security forces, I guess.
the
Yeah.
security forces and government. Yes, towards
It's
the
interesting.
protesters.
Actually, I was going to ask you, do you think I've seen just over the last week or two, there's been a lot of similar sorts of protests in Russia? They're getting inspired by the people of Belarus a bit, or?
Certainly, 100% true. People in Russia right now who protest against imprisoning of Navalny, they even bring the same symbols with them
Yes.
to the protest.
Yeah.
Of
I've
course,
seen people with the white, red, white
yeah,
Belarus flag in the Russian protests too.
yes, that's correct. Yes, because I think that became a symbol of a strong resistance over the past 5 months. Nobody is used to seeing Belarus protesting that massively and for such a long time, because normally since 1996, there were always protests going on. There was not enough coverage ever on the news, of course, but there were always protests going on. But there was always like they were always kind of drowned in blood. Just throughout the history of Belarus, whatever protest is going on in Belarus is getting drowned in blood, and that's why people were afraid to protest for a very long time. Those who want freedom and democracy and their rights being respected. And now I think we just got enough of that, and just there is nothing to lose anymore.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
that's why it keeps going on, because it doesn't matter how much the dictatorship will push on us. I think the idea is already there, right? Like just like in V for Vendetta, you cannot kill the idea.
Uh-huh. Right. Yeah. Right.
Right? The idea of being able to craft our own state, our own constitution, which was actually pretty nicely written before it was changed
Right.
several
Yes.
times by current government, to be the owners of our own fate and to be human beings that are respected, and we do respect each other. You can see that from what is going on in Belarus, right?
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
Yes, and that is something that is not going to die that easily. I don't
Good.
see it stopping anytime.
Yeah.
And even though right now it's winter in Belarus, it's
Oh,
snowing,
yes.
it's really cold, people still continue going on those like local marches,
Yes.
even despite the risk of being just taken away by the police, even if you are outside, like next to it or just outside for whatever reason. Because I think right now police has a quota of how many people they have to arrest. Like,
Oh, really? Oh,
yes,
boy.
I mean there is no law there, no law there anymore. Like you can be like taken from the street while you walking your dog, or like go into the
Yes.
grocery.
Yes, I've read about that. Yeah.
Yes. So that's another part of like people just see that this is unlawful and disrespectful, and this certainly violates not just rights, but just this idea that we are human beings. Uh, our government doesn't see us this way. Our government sees us as slaves that's supposed to feed the government, and that's
Hmm.
is the
Yeah.
big problem that finally became visible. We should finish within the next 5 minutes, and it's been really interesting to talk with you. And
Oh, it's been great. I've learned a lot more, even just talking to you this last hour. It's been great, my friend.
great, yes, I'm really happy that you're supporting the movement in Belarus and the movement for democracy. And it is fantastic that this is how we met. We met through this organization
I
that
know, it's great.
it's the essence of the democracy and free speech, like in its
Yes, indeed. Yes.
nature, right? Like this is a great place that has such a strong power to connect people from different cultures
Yes.
around this topic of being independent and
Yeah, definitely.
democratic and active in your community.
Yes. And I've met some great friends. I mean, you're one of them, absolutely. You know,
Thank you. Yeah, I'm glad that I met you as well.
yes, it's very nice. Thank you so much.